episode number 2 of ECW CyberSlam, and it begins with a recap from last week's show, pretty much the entirety of that final segment being replayed. Homicide, Loki and Xavier, who had debuted confronting Paul Heyman at the beginning of the night, jumped the guardrail and attacked Rob Van Dam and Sabu after they picked up a win in the main event. Dreamer and Sandman had also been a part of that match, and they looked to help their fellow originals, only to suffer the same fate as RVD and Sabu. Tommy Dreamer in particular was targeted by those newcomers. The first show of ECW's rebirth then ending with 3 members of that new breed of talent standing tall, having laid out 4 iconic figures in the history of ECW. Out of that segment, we get a fired up promo, an angry promo from Tommy Dreamer. He's kicking walls, he's punching doors as he challenges any member of that group who attacked them last week to a match in the main event. Dreamer puts over the fact that he has refused any medical attention to his injured shoulder because he isn't going to let anybody get between him and revenge on those guys. Tommy Dreamer improvising well throughout the segment, getting a D+ 52 rating, bringing forward that storyline and gaining heat to it. So that is a solid promo, not as good as last week, but again, Dreamer is going to be the guy pushing these storylines forward because we can rely on him to both do good promos and to be pretty reliable in the ring. We then go into the first match of the night, a tag team match between 4 originals, Danny Doring and Roadkill picking up the victory over the FBI in 8 minutes and 16 seconds. During the match, there's a lot of shenanigans. It's an overbooked match. Shelly Martinez, the girlfriend of Danny Doring, getting involved. Trinity from the FBI getting involved. This allows Joey Styles to excitedly shriek "catfight" for the first time in the new ECW. During this distraction, Danny Doring hits a low blow to Little Guido. This puts their team in control. Doring and Roadkill hitting the boogie bang to Little Guido and pinning him. Guido carrying the match in terms of in-ring performance, so it was probably the wrong decision to have him be the one pinned. The others hovering around 40. Mamaluke a bit better than the opponents, so maybe even the wrong team won. But I think the match serves 2 purposes. 1, to show fans that we aren't just using the originals to get new guys over. There is a place for them in the new ECW. And 2, it gives us a little low-level rivalry to continue. Eventually we can have singles matches and possibly a 6-person tag team match. So it just keeps the lower card ticking over. After the match, Danny Doring and Shelly Martinez begin to make out in the ring. Even Roadkill looking uncomfortable. They're using tongues. They're just basically trying to gross everybody out with their overly affectionate ways in the ring. Joey Styles and Taz saying, whoever's in the truck, cut away from this right now. When we do cut away, this leads into a vignette with CM Punk, who talks about his debut victory over Just Incredible last week. Punk also responds to Joey Styles and Taz revealing that he is straight edge and suggesting that this makes him anti-ECW. He says that it's true he is straight edge, but that doesn't mean he isn't extreme. He doesn't drink, smoke or do drugs, and that's his free choice, and he's happy for everybody else to get on with their lives. He may not have much in common with the people in his locker room, but he proved last week he belongs in ECW. So we wanted to put over Punk's lifestyle because being straight edge is a little interesting thing. It does make him unique within the ECW roster as far as I'm aware. At the moment, it's not going to be a huge part of his character, so we didn't want him bringing it up in a promo. So we thought having Joey Styles bring it up, then him respond, would probably be a better way of doing it. Long term, it probably will play into his character because we know how good he is at being that cult-like figure, heel, angry at the world, banging his drum. His in-ring work and promo so far have been really impressive, so it gives us every reason to think he's going to be a huge part of ECW going forward. And whether it's as a face or a heel, he's definitely a future main eventer. There's pretty much no question about that. We come back then to a live interview with Loki, Homicide and Xavier, who are responding to Tommy Dreamer's challenge earlier in the night. Homicide once again takes the lead of the promo in the group. He just feels like the more vocal to me of the 3. He tells Tommy Dreamer that he's the one who will face the innovator of violence in the main event. So our main event is set, Homicide versus Tommy Dreamer. Not very good. This is why Tommy Dreamer is so important in this storyline. A D- 37 from Homicide. Again, the other 2 rated on overness. So that's probably bringing it down as well. And it's losing heat to the storyline. So maybe we do need to focus more on Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Sandman and Dreamer maybe carrying this storyline rather than these 3. We then go into the second match of the night, Brent Albright in action, again coming off his victory over C.W. Anderson last week. However, the focus before the match is on Al Snow, who appeared to be in a heated conversation with his mannequin Head. During the match, with Al Snow in control, he appears to once again talk to Head, being urged to go to the top rope. He does this, goes for the moonsault but misses. Quickly he's caught in the crowbar by Albright with his arm trapped and nowhere to go. Al Snow taps out in 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Also during the match, Steve Corino came out, joining commentary for a brief period and making it clear that he has his eye on the newcomer Brent Albright. Before the match ended, he left ringside. He gets a 33E+, so not a very good performance. A 31 for Brent Albright and a 41 for Al Snow. Brent Albright off his game. We're really trying to set him as one of the new breed guys to push, but performances like that are really not going to help him. Al Snow with, again, a middling performance, but it was more about the story really for Al Snow in this match. He was the focus of the match after the match as well. He appears to be blaming Head for him going to the top rope and costing him the match. The commentators react with complete bemusement, saying that Al Snow is back and he is crazier than ever. He gets into an argument with Head. It's just a weird segment is what we're going for. He's not, I know, on the level of Terry Funk, but I do see him doing a mid-card version of the sort of middle-aged and crazy gimmick. Suits him really well, and it brings in Head into what is going to be a story that develops over the next weeks and months with the sort of breakdown of Al Snow. As the commentators talk about this and another victory for Brent Albright, the camera cuts away without warning. Sandman is shown out cold, having been taken out by who knows. We don't know who's taking him out, but Tommy Dreamer, who is quickly on the scene, has a pretty good idea that Homicide and his group were behind it. Just before the main event, a vignette promotes Elijah Burke's arrival in ECW. His boxing skills are once again on display, with Elijah talking to the camera. He puts himself over as the future of ECW, and he's coming next week. So a 46 D rating for the main event, not really good enough for the level of main event that we want. A 54 from Tommy Dreamer, just about an acceptable performance, but a disappointing 39 from Homicide. We also had Tommy Dreamer visibly tiring towards the end of the match, which wouldn't have helped. The match did get the crowd buzzing though, and was a decent match apparently. Loki and Xavier coming out during it and getting involved. Rob Van Dam and Sabu were quickly out though to even the odds. Obviously with Sandman out, this was now an even one-on-one match once again because the four men brawled to the outside and through the crowd. It was then down to just the two men in the match. Dreamer managing to take control, hitting Homicide with a DDT to a steel chair. He then looked to finish the match off, setting up a table and going for the Death Valley Driver. When Dreamer gets Homicide up in the air, however, he is clubbed in the back by a man who we haven't seen before in ECW. Joey Styles recognises him, however, as Sonny Siaki, the sneak attack causing Tommy to drop Homicide to the ground. Siaki then hits Dreamer with a powerbomb through the table, dragging Homicide over him for the 1-2-3. After the match, with everybody else still out of sight, Sonny Siaki pushes Tommy Dreamer out of the ring with his boot before dragging a barely conscious Homicide back to his feet. Taz puts over the power and the size of Sonny Siaki, as well as the strength he showed when powerbombing Tommy Dreamer through the table. With the second episode of CyberSlam coming to a close, the group of Homicide, Loki and Xavier had been strengthened and once again gotten one over on the ECW originals. Joey Styles noted as the show went off the air that so far the new ECW belongs to the new breed. So the overall show rating is a 49D+, increasing our popularity in 42 regions, losing us popularity in the Tri-State, our home region. Before the show, I probably would have been disappointed with that, but having gone through segment by segment, it really isn't a surprise that we've only come out with a D+. Probably I expected maybe that we'd get a D. Storyline-wise, we've established a few things, particularly in that main event storyline. Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, Sandman and Rob Van Dam now have to contend with Homicide, Loki, Xavier and the debut in Sonny Siaki. That is probably the main takeaway from the show, and next week we can expect a big reaction from those originals who for 2 weeks now have been decimated and beaten down by the new breed.